Welcome back to ETB Boxing, where we bring the story behind every punch and every fight. Well, Oscar De La Hoya is offering his opinion again on what's next after Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford fight is over. This time we're not getting the clap back Oscar. We're getting actually a more sound Oscar, and his insights are going to surprise you. He's going to tell you what the next big fight for Crawford should be, and I agree with him. It might sound biased, but hear him out. I think it makes sense, and I'll give an opinion on that. The other thing is that he's going to share what Canelo needs to do moving forward, a change that he needs to do. You're going to be surprised to hear what he has to say. Anyway, before we get started, if you're enjoying the content, click like and subscribe to the channel. It helps our channel really grow, and we would greatly appreciate it. Anyway, let's get to the video brought to you by Hype, Fight Hub TV. They really do a lot of good stuff. I'm really grateful that they allow us to comment on their videos. Let's find out what Mr. De La Hoya has to say.
All right, Oscar, good to see you once again. Talk to you. Hey, with a lot to talk about. Obviously, you know, people want to hear your reaction to the clapback Thursday, which you got a couple more days to go. But this Oscar, the Canelo performance over Crawford, you predicted it quickly. You got everything correct. Is Canelo done after this? And if he's not, he has two more fights with Turki Al-Sheikh. What other two fights can we see from him?
When, you know, it's funny because when people ask me, you know, are fighters done or this and that, I could never answer for a fighter if they're done or not, you know, because it's a very personal decision from the fighter, including Canelo. As much as I hate him, actually, I don't hate, I just don't care for him. But if he wants to fight again or if he doesn't, that's obviously his decision. I have to respect that. So, but obviously, look, again, Crawford just took him to school. That's basically it. That's the bottom line. I mean, Crawford is older than Canelo, so we can't use the excuse that he's older, right? We can't use the excuse that, oh, well, you know, he moved around too much. Well, it's your job to figure him out, right? Just like Chavez would figure out a fighter, just like I would figure out a fighter, just like any real great fighter can figure styles out. That's your job.
Is Oscar indirectly saying Canelo is not a real great fighter? You know, there's a lot of pushback on how Canelo really doesn't have the traditional Mexican fighter spirit. They're going to make a comment on something that Canelo did during the fight that is interesting, and for some of you hardcore Canelo fans, probably never even consider it, but you might want to hear this. Might change your perspective a little bit on where Canelo is in that comparison to that traditional great Mexican fighter.
I think Crawford did a tremendous job. Kudos to him. Sky's the limit for Crawford, and I really don't know where Canelo goes, seriously.
Switching the coin, you know, Crawford, you know, they were talking about going down to 160, maybe hypothetically taking a vacant belt to face Joran Ennis. They're even talking about going Benavidez, but that's just, you know, Benavidez is a 175 now. But what fights make sense for Crawford at the moment as well?
I seriously feel that when Crawford beat Canelo, right? He beat the top dog. He beat the man, right? Okay, where do you go from there? He's gonna have a very difficult time dealing with the media, with the fans, because any fighter he chooses to fight next is not going to be good enough, right? Because he already beat the top dog. I strongly feel, and I know we're talking about Vergil Ortiz and Erickson Lubin, and I don't like to dream and overthink.
That's why I didn't bring that up.
Plan another fight. But hey, what about if Vergil gets past Lubin? What about Vergil and Crawford at 160? Imagine that. Would be incredible. So there's a good possibility that Crawford will stay at 168. most likely go down to 160. I don't think he's going to touch 154. I think he'll stay at 160 eventually and try to find the biggest fights possible. And the biggest fight for him would be a Vergil Ortiz.
So a couple of things here. I think Oscar makes a really good point that Terence Crawford is not really going to be able to find a bigger name or a bigger fight moving forward. He now has the problem of the top dog problem. What is that? When Floyd Mayweather was fighting, he would beat somebody and then he's got to fight this other person. You know, why don't you fight Gennady Golovkin? And just, you know, there's not a bigger fight really out there once you're the top dog and you've defeated the man or you've defeated everybody in your divisions. The second point is maybe you don't have a big name fight that's going to surpass Canelo, but maybe there's a story. There's a story that is intriguing. What's that story? Hey, Vergil Ortiz, you know, he fought Madrimov, and a lot of people think he did a better job than you did. Could Vergil Ortiz actually beat Crawford and give him a 0? Whether you believe that or not, that's not the point. I'm not trying to say Crawford can't school him or vice versa. I'm just saying the story, the promotion, the buildup. Maybe this is the guy that can solve the Crawford puzzle, right? That's interesting. And Vergil Ortiz is a Mexican-American. He has the American-Mexican, you know, that whole tradition with him. American boxer, you know, clashing together. That could be a sellable fight. I like where Oscar's mind is. Let's continue here, guys.
Yeah. You look at a guy like Canelo Alvarez, like if you were still advising him, I mean, what would you tell him? I mean, do you want to see him retire, or would you tell him, hey, it's time to rebuild, or maybe find a new trainer?
Yeah, look, I mean, the only thing I can tell him or give him advice in is get a new trainer. I can't advise him on retiring or staying in box. That's a very personal decision. But I can say, hey, get a new trainer. You'll do better. A new trainer will teach you different tricks. Will imagine him getting one of the best trainers out there in the world, like a Ronnie Shields, who's gonna teach you footwork, who's gonna teach you speed and movement and not be so heavy on your feet. So imagine with his power and with his reflexes, he still has a chance to fight several more fights with the elites, but he needs a new trainer.
Floyd Mayweather Sr., maybe? Mayweather Sr.? What would he do with Canelo?
Floyd, for me, is the best trainer I've ever had in my life. He would revitalize his style. He would make him a new fighter. That's how great Floyd is.
You talked about Spence and Vergil.
They're about to get to Spence update, but what do you think? Do you think Canelo is at the point of his career that if he invested in a new trainer, if he changed the historical partnership that he has with Eddy Reynoso to get a new trainer, would he actually be able to learn new things, or is he just a, you know, one of the adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Who knows? I'm really curious about that. I'd love to see him combine, you know, his talent with someone like Floyd Mayweather. I mean, imagine all the things he can learn from him. Let's get into what he's going to respond about Spence.
So, about 4 years ago, we were talking about that fight here, about the mega fight at Cowboy Stadium. Spence has been hitting about coming back.
Oh, has he?
A little bit, right? Putting out little feelers, right?
Okay.
Is that the fight to make in the next year, Spence and Ortiz?
Man. First of all, I have to say that I respect Spence so much. When I was promoting him, I've always said that he was like the next Sugar Ray Leonard of our era.
Right.
You know, clean cut, good kid, can fight like a mother, you know. He's just amazing. I think he still has that opportunity. I think he has a second chance in life. He has to seize it. He has to want it. He has to have that discipline to capture it, you know? And I strongly feel, imagine that, when Vergil Ortiz was a kid telling me, Oscar, I want to fill up the stadium one day. Well, I'll tell you one thing, Vergil Ortiz and Errol Spence at Dallas Cowboy Stadium, woo, man, it doesn't get any better than that.
Oscar,
And Jerry Jones,
Oscar,
the boss, the man, the myth, the legend. Come on.
And the golden boy.
You saw, at the last 2 rounds with Canelo, when he threw a punch, something that surprised me, he threw a punch and it didn't work, and he got caught, and it seemed like he just walked away from Crawford. He turned around. To me, I took it like I'm just tired. I'm done.
Yeah.
Danny Garcia said he's mentally tired. Like, it's almost like he's checked out. Would it make sense for him to just retire after this? What else is for him to prove now?
Well, look, I mean, you have to look. I'm a fighter, right? And I know exactly what he was feeling and thinking. It's called frustration. When you're facing a Floyd, he got frustrated. When he faced Bivol, he got frustrated, tried to lift him up and body slam him in the ring. When he got hit by Crawford and he took that deep breath, he's frustrated. Don't get me wrong. Canelo facing the right opponent that's going to stay in front of him, that's going to fight, that's going to make it a brawl, Canelo knocks him out. So I'm not saying Canelo's shot or done. No, it's far from it. It's all on the matchmaking. It's all who you put in front of him. It's all about squeezing those last.
It's a fair criticism to say that about Canelo, that he kind of was frustrated. That's not typical for a Mexican fighter to kind of do that. The last Latino fighter that kind of showed that amount of frustration at the highest level was Roberto Duran with Sugar Ray Leonard, where he said no mas. But typically Mexican fighters are not really going to go there, not in my opinion. And I think Canelo just got used to running over people for a while. I think for a long time he was in the fight. He didn't get frustrated. He had the legs to kind of follow those boxers, and it's just weird that he kind of did that. I think he knew he was outmatched. I think he's had a string of, I wouldn't say easy fights, but maybe middle tier fighters, and I think he forgot what it's like to fight top tier. Maybe not forgot, but maybe the body just wasn't responding like he wanted to. Maybe that was a frustration. Anyway, thanks for stopping by, guy. That's the punch. That's the story. That's ETB Boxing.